This episode of the Shack Chronicles is brought to you in part by David Hartin Guiding. Before booking your next adventure, check out www.davidhartlinguiding.com. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for all your Pro Tip Tuesdays, guide choice reviews, and much more.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Guideuide Shack Chronicles. We're sitting here today with Orion Hatch from the Snake River Fund, all the way from Jackson Hole, Wyoming. How you doing today?
Hey David, I'm great. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk with you today.
Thanks for coming on here and telling us about some of the great things you guys are doing. So tell us a little bit about Orion.
Yeah, I can do that. I grew up in Massachusetts and fell in love with rivers in Colorado. I started as a whitewater rafting guide out there, and then went back to Massachusetts and went to college in Western Massachusetts, where I worked as a river guide throughout my stay at college, and continued to build my affinity for rivers, my love for rivers. And then after college, I moved out west here and continued guiding, and fell in love with the Intermountain West, with the Rockies. And I've been in Jackson Hole since 2014. Started working for the Snake River Fund just a little over a year ago, and boy, I just can't seem to get enough. You know, I think you can attest to that. We don't really get sick of the rivers, right? My love for it just keeps on growing and growing.
Never get sick of the rivers, man. They always flow to the ocean, and you know which way they're going and where they're coming from.
That's it.
That's the one thing certain about the rivers, man. You always know what they're going to do. They're unpredictable, but you always know what you got when you get there, right? But
that's it.
The other thing too, like, did you notice when you went out west and you went back home that you had to go back out west? Because I find a lot of people that go west, especially when they get into the Rockies, like it's hard for them to go back, to not go back and move there, or at least visit there frequently. Like, did it hold a special place for your heart?
Yeah, it absolutely does, David. And of course, I love New England. I love the East Coast as well, but the dramatic landscape out here, and I think one thing that really does it for me is the connectedness of all the public lands out here, and the ability to, walk out my back door and be in national forests for as far as I could ever want to walk. And
that's important.
Yeah, it is. And the feeling of space and the grandeur of the mountains, all those things definitely have drawn me here and kept me here, for sure. The East Coast is special in its own right, but there's something about the majesty of the Intermountain West and the Rocky Mountains that it's hard to escape. That's for sure.
Yeah, see, I haven't seen the Rockies yet. I live here on the East Coast in Nova Scotia. I'm right on the ocean, almost surrounded by it. We're basically an island, small peninsula, really. And I think I'd have a pretty easy time giving up the ocean for the mountains, I think.
Yeah, you'll have to come out and visit us, man. We'll show you some of our world-class cutthroat fisheries.
Yeah, I'll come out for sure sometime, man. I'd love to hook up with you and see some of the cool waters you guys are protecting out there. So tell us what it is that the Snake River Fund is doing.
Yeah, I can do that.
Started. A little bit of history on it would be good. I realize it's not a new organization. This is something that's been around for a long time, doing some really great things.
Yeah, for sure. I can touch on kind of the history of the fund. Basically, the story is in the late 90s. So one of the main economic engines of our community is the Snake River, and it's a great recreational asset for us as well, obviously. And in the late 90s, the Bridger Teton National Forest, who manages certain stretches of the Snake River, they were feeling the pressure, just like I think we all are, and like you've experienced, from increased recreational use of rivers all around the world, right? People just want to get out more, and that's a great thing, but it also puts certain pressures on and growing constantly. Absolutely. And that growth has put pressures on the industries, the folks who manage those rivers. And so in the late 90s, the Bridger Teton National Forest was considering to kind of mitigate the impacts of this increased usership, implementing this pay-to-play sort of system. They wanted to charge people to use the river, and You know, maybe that's not unrealistic, but one great thing that the community did was band together, pooled their resources to keep certain stretches of the Snake as, you know, kind of a free resource for the community. So that's how the Snake River Fund came to be. And between then and now, our work has kind of expanded. We still are heavily involved in promotion of you know, effective river access. We're working on a few things right now in that vein. We also do a lot of educational programs for the youth in our community, and we promote stewardship of the resource as well. And we kind of achieve all of those things through some great partnerships. We're really lucky to have a bunch of like-minded partners in and around the greater Yellowstone ecosystem that we can work with to kind of achieve all of our goals. So yeah, that's kind of what we do.
So you guys are stewards of the river as a whole, not as you know, for protecting fishing. It's protecting the river as a whole and continuing access for people to use it for all different recreational purposes.
You got it. You got it. Yeah. So I mean, right, we have some prolific fishing that goes on here. We want to be a voice and an advocate for the fishing community. We have some amazing stretches of whitewater here on the Snake River that we want to maintain access to and have, you know, the whitewater community's voices heard through us in a lot of cases. And then there's just the folks, you know, we want to be able to, we want the Snake River to be available to everybody. And, you know, whether you're just hopping on an inner tube and floating down, we want you to, you know, be yourself a good steward of the resource and enjoy the resource as safely as possible. So yeah, we do a lot of great things like building up boat ramps, you know, helping with maintenance of you know, entrance or egress points of the river. And we have like a great loaner life jacket program right now where we've raised some funds. We have all these life jackets out on certain stretches of the river. So folks who come down to the river and maybe forgot their life jacket at home can use our loaner kiosks and get down the river more safely. So
nice.
Yeah, we try to be stewards of the river as a whole, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important too, because then that means that you're not seeing just one side of it, or you know, you're not trying to benefit from just one side of it. You're, like, you know, the fishing community is going to really they're going to look after the fishing community more so than the kayak community, and vice versa, right? So it's good to have an organization that's actually a steward for the river.
Yeah, you're right. And it's so funny too. There seems to be some kind of for whatever reason, there can be, I don't know if animosity is the right word, but the tensions can build, it seems like, between these different user groups. You always hear the river guides kind of, you know, especially at the end of the summer when everybody's kind of at their wits' end, you know, there's like these tensions that seem to build between the different user groups. And one great thing about the Snake River Fund is a lot of times I feel like we have the ability to remind folks that we all have similar interests in mind, right? We all want to protect the resource, and you know, we're not so different at the end of the day. Whether you're fishing or you're just out for a booze cruise with your friends on the river, we all kind of want the same things, and so yeah,
we're all there to enjoy the outdoors.
That's it. That's it.
Unfortunately, sometimes when you're a fishing guide and you have two clients out and they're trying to enjoy a nice day fly fishing, and 6 people come by in a raft on their booze cruise, as a guide, you feel, oh my God, like you just totally ruined the ambiance of my client's day. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes the client, hopefully, would realize, well, geez, you know, at least they're out here enjoying the resource instead of being stuck home in front of a television. It really not going to affect the fishing that much. If anything, I've had the fishing get better after a boat's gone through, maybe wake the fish up a little bit, right?
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
When, you know, in those situations, right, it's like it can be easy to like let tensions build or tempers flare. And one of the things that I think we have the ability to do is like get everybody together and talk to those people who are out.
Do you see that? And when you guys do your organized events, like when you're putting in your boat launches, I assume that's volunteer basis, and you probably get a lot of people come out and give you a hand, do you? Or?
Yeah, we definitely do some, or there's been a lot of volunteer opportunities in the past to kind of maintain pathways and to help with the maintenance of
You notice both
programs.
sides getting together to do those activities like work days? Do you notice the fishermen and the kayakers coming together and whitewater guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great opportunity, like any of our educational workshops or volunteer opportunities. When those user groups get together, it's like cooler heads can prevail, and you can say things like, "Hey, man, like kind of spread the awareness. Like you see a boat fishing, like let's give them some space." And you want to foster that environment where user groups can enjoy the resource together. And it's like, don't be hooting and hollering. This guy's trying to make a living, and at the same time, once you
So
get past
respect both
them,
ways.
that's it. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. So Snake
But
River Fun's good at
what
doing
I
that
was
kind of
thinking
stuff.
would be neat there would be like, you got these fly fishing guides going out to do these work days, and then all of a sudden you get these whitewater guys coming in, or these booze cruise people coming in to help maintain the trails. I was just curious as to how many people ended up ever getting into fishing by meeting guides through your guys' organization, or meeting people that are into the fishing industry. Like, you weren't always a fisherman. You think you
No,
got into
that's
fishing
right.
because of the Snake River Fund?
I caught my first
Directly or
ever
indirectly?
yeah, I caught my first ever fish on a fly last summer with my executive director, Jared Becker, um, who works here for the Snake River Fund. So we were out doing our some wild and scenic river inventories, and um, he just gave me a couple pointers, and I've fallen in love with it. It's a really cool sport, and I'm sure I can't think of any specific examples off the top of my head, David, but I'm sure that people who have interacted with us in the past have continued to pursue river recreation because of the experiences that they've had with the Snake River Fund, no doubt.
Or crossed over to try a different recreation, like maybe a fly fisherman with
Exactly.
kayaking. Like, I just think that's kind of neat that you're drawing, because normally in most organizations, as I said before, it's usually driven directly towards the specific genre of activity that people are doing, such as fishing, kayaking, camping, uh, bushcrafting, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of neat that your organization actually draws multiple genres of people. And I was just curious as to what the crossover would be like, of people trying new things that other people are doing, and then maybe realizing, okay, we like the loud booze cruise, or we're whitewater rafting, hooting and hollering. But when you're standing on the bank and you're fishing, I do now realize that person's there for tranquility, peace, and quiet, and to become one with the river, to get zen or whatever it is. They're not there to hoot and holler, so to speak. So when you see those people, you kind of now subconsciously know, okay, well, I'm going to give them their space because I've been there to see what it's like.
Yeah, you got it. It's a great way to build some empathy for everybody else out there trying to enjoy their
Yeah.
day. And we also, we do some like youth programs. I think, I mentioned those educational programs that we do, and part of like our Snake River Days camp is getting kids to tie flies. So we foster that passion. We get them out there. We get them, learning how to fly fish, helping them tie flies, getting them comfortable with standing in the water, doing some wade fishing and stuff like that. So we also try to foster new passions for the kids in our community.
Nice. Do the kids get a lot out of that? Do you find, like, are these kids that you're targeting, putting an ad out there, if anybody wants to come join the Snake River Fund on Saturday, we're going to be doing this, blah, 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 or do you do it through the school system?
We actually do it in partnership with our Parks and Rec department. So it's kind of like a summer camp. And last year, unfortunately, we had to put it on hold because of the pandemic going on. It's for the safety of everybody involved. But we're kind of trying to reinvigorate these things this summer, and definitely for years to come. I think they're of a great value to our community. But yeah, we partner with our Parks and Recs department, and just try to get kids out on the water and learning about riparian ecology and watershed science over the course of a couple days.
Yeah. So what other projects do you guys have on the go right now in particular?
Man, one of the things that took up a big chunk of our summer that was really kind of rewarding work was this wild and scenic river inventory that we did this summer, and that happened on the Bridger Teton National Forest. I can talk about that for a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Maybe I should give a little bit of background here. If I start rambling, you can tell me to slow down too. But basically, the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. So maybe I should even back up a little bit further to like the early 1800s. Basically, so the United States, right? We have over 80,000 dams in the U.S. that are 6 feet or higher. Okay, so kind of
wow, that was a hard one to swallow.
80,000, and as a fisherman, you can appreciate the impact that those dams have on fisheries. But you know, like kind of the stat that you hear thrown around quite a bit, and maybe is overused, but it is eye-opening. Is that 80,000 dams? That is one dam built every single day since Thomas Jefferson was elected president in 1801. Okay, there hasn't been a dam built every day, but that's the equation if you did the math, right? So we have this obsession with harnessing the kinetic energy of moving water, and that really kind of once Thomas Edison was cranking out light bulbs, all of a sudden hydroelectric dams were springing up all over the U.S. and a lot of those are dilapidated now, and it didn't take long for people to realize that impounding these rivers is kind of leading to the destruction of our nation's fisheries, and not just U.S. fisheries, right? Canadian fisheries as well.
Sure.
Think about like the Grand Coulee Dam affecting the salmon runs up to the Columbia River Basin. And the answer, at first wasn't like, we got to start taking down some of these dams. It was the National Fish Hatchery System, which we're now finding more and more flaws with. But basically, all of these dams exist, right? And Lyndon B. Johnson decided to kind of complement this obsession with developing rivers. The Wild and Scenic Rivers Act was introduced as a way to protect kind of some of these last vestiges of American wilderness and these free-flowing rivers, which are so few and far between these days. So yeah, basically, a river, when it's entered into the Wild and Scenic River System, is usually managed by a federal agency or a state agency, especially out west here. And around here, we have the Bridger Teton National Forest, and they operate under what's called a forest plan that kind of dictates what happens to all the resources within the forest. Everything from like timber harvest to mineral extraction to any kind of recreational opportunities. And one part of that is assessing every named stream within their jurisdiction for wild and scenic eligibility. And they don't really have the boots on the ground to be able to accomplish something like that. So this summer, the Snake River Fund, we managed to partner with the Greater Yellowstone Coalition. We got some funding from the Pew Charitable Trusts and American Rivers too. And we were able to go out and assess 133 named streams in the Bridger Teton National Forest. My colleague Teddy Collins and I were out there most days of the summer and documenting.
That's like one stream a day for all summer.
Yeah, and a lot of times it was multiple streams a day. It was
nice.
It was pretty awesome work, man. And so, we just finished building a report that is going to be delivered to the Bridger Teton National Forest as they kind of go through this forest plan revision process. And the report basically details which rivers we ultimately we're recommending, or we've determined that 57 rivers we think are eligible for entrance into this wild and scenic river system.
So what makes eligibility?
Good question. There's basically two things that make a river eligible for entrance, and that's it has to be free flowing. Okay, so no impoundments, diversions, and honestly, there's wiggle room there. If you have like a small, low impact dam. I personally think all dams are high impact and need to be done away with. But if there's small impoundments, it doesn't matter. So, but for the letter of the law, it needs to be free flowing. It also needs to have one outstandingly remarkable value, which can sound pretty subjective, and sometimes it is. But an outstandingly remarkable value can be anything that is just really incredible about a watershed. Like
Today's
a lot of
day and
times,
age, clean water would qualify for that.
yeah. Interestingly enough, there's like very few that fall into this. Water quality has to be preserved, but it's tough for whatever reason in the law to include water quality as an outstandingly remarkable value. Most times they fall in like geologic. So if there's like an outstanding textbook geologic feature, that qualifies as a geologic ORV. There's if there's an outstanding fishery or an endemic fish species that really benefits from a stretch of water because the water is so cold and clean, right? That's a fish ORV. There's wildlife ORVs, historical and cultural ORVs, not just for like Euro-American history, but also history of our native communities that have called these lands and rivers home for tens of thousands of years, and recreational RVs. You get the idea. But it just needs to have one of those. Okay, so if it's free flowing and it has one outstandingly remarkable value, boom, technically, it's eligible. It's eligible for designation wild and scenic. And pure
Just because it's
designation.
eligible doesn't mean it gets deemed, though. Correct?
Yes, yeah. So what would happen is, like in our case, Bridger Teton National Forest would designate a certain stretch of river as eligible, and thankfully, that eligibility through just the national forest would offer the same protections as full congressional designation for the life of that forest plan, which is great. But yeah, you're right. Full designation needs to be an act of Congress. It would be signed by the Secretary of the Interior and usually lumped into like a larger bill, and they kind of would tack on some more wild and scenic rivers onto a larger bill, if you will. So
Gotcha. So the rivers that you guys did this year,
uh-huh.
that could be a long time before they're actually deemed by Congress.
Yeah, decades even, which can sound discouraging, but conservation, I think, is kind of a long. You're playing long ball here. You're not looking for change to happen tomorrow. A lot of these systemic issues that we see with like conservation issues, you just got to look towards the future and kind of hope for the best, and just keep pushing for protections on some of these wild places. But yeah, I think we're really proud of this report we just built. We're grateful for the opportunity to work with Greater Yellowstone Coalition and American Rivers Pew Charitable Trust to do work like that and continue protecting these beautiful places we've kind of built our life around.
I mean, I kind of take it for granted here. I mean, we got a relatively low population here on the east coast of Canada, so and it's all public water, all public land. Well, I should say all public land. We have a lot of public land. Like for me to walk out and walk into a river and fish, it's first nature, like, or second nature. Like, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to have these places that you couldn't go to, or the private land, private. So it's good that there's organizations like you guys that protect these places so they never get to become, industry or anything like that, or private. Like, I assume that if these rivers are deemed scenic or historic or whatever, they don't get ever riparian rights. Like they will always stay public waters, correct?
Yeah. So one thing that the act doesn't do is it doesn't impact like existing private water rights or any kind of private property or existing water rights, like I said. But yeah, for sure. A lot of times, the rivers that get designated will, so especially out west, be managed by an agency that kind of basically, how should I say this? Like, say the Bureau of Land Management would take over management of a river that's deemed eligible, and just kind of by that, the nature of that water kind of remains public access, and
Yeah.
like I said, a lot of these that we studied, especially this summer, already fall within the Bridger Teton National Forest, which anybody can access, and mostly what it's ensuring is that water will stay in its current free-flowing state. It won't be impounded. It won't be used for hydropower, and immediately along the within the river corridor, generally a quarter mile on either side, won't be developed either. And it's all kinds of stuff. You know, if there were some like mining prospects or something in the vicinity of a wild and scenic river, then they would have to prove that any kind of operations that they do would not be affecting the quality of the water or the free flowing nature of the water or any one of those outstandingly remarkable values because of their operations. So, yeah.
Perfect. So what do you guys have on the go for this year? I know, I mean, some things are up in the air, obviously, like with your workshops and stuff like that, but any plans for this upcoming summer? Are you guys going to be doing that same kind of project if you get the funding again?
Yeah, we are hoping to try to do some wild and scenic river monitoring. So monitoring any changes to the already existing wild and scenic rivers that we have here. We are trying to reinvigorate some of our educational programs, trying to get some more fifth graders out on the water if we can. Maybe to a limited degree, some of our that Snake River Days camp. We're also working really hard with local government to get a new boat ramp in town, or it's an existing boat ramp, but it needs improvements, and there's some funds allocated for the improvement of that boat ramp. So we're trying to get people involved and to write letters to our local county commissioners about the importance of making some safe, effective boat ramps here in the community. We're doing small stuff, even like right now we're trying to raise some money to get the boat ramps cleared so folks can get out and, you know, wet a line and get out on the water, because it's starting to feel like spring here, and I think people are itching to
Do you guys
get out
have
on the
much
water.
snow there?
Yeah, good amount of snow still on the ground, and at some of our boat ramps too, it's definitely impassable. So we're trying to raise some funds and get those boat ramps cleared and get folks on the water. So
Yeah. You have to go out and get yourself a shovel.
yeah, absolutely. What do you got going for this summer?
Well, as far as my guiding gig, that's all up in the air due to border opening. Pretty well all my clients are Americans, so
Is that right?
and where the borders were closed last year, everybody got carried over to 2021, so that's all still up in the air. So I really don't know what my plans are for this year. But yeah, just plugging away. Time flies like crazy here. Spinning deer here. I had the floor in my other office there, just absolutely covered in deer hair. You look down on the floor, it looked like a rainbow down there. There was green hair, there was yellow hair, there was brown hair. It was crazy. So I had to get that all cleaned up before I jumped on this call with you. Because now when I get off the call with you, it's going to be supper time. It's going to be a night of sitting around and relaxing with my wife and maybe take in a movie or something like that.
There you go. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, we almost got no snow left here. It's still cold though in Celsius. We got minus 15 degrees Celsius.
No kidding.
Cold enough.
What
Yeah,
is it,
so
about
that's
-5 or something Fahrenheit? I'm trying to do the math, but that's cold.
roughly, yeah. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to summer coming for sure.
Yeah, I hear you.
Our first season be trout season. I don't play with trout too much. Most people that know me, I'm not a trout bum at all. Like I've been up in Labrador, probably some of the best trout fishing for speckled trout, without question, in North America for sure. And I've been up there like doing fill-ins, and I could care less to catch trout. Like 5-pound brookies, 6-pound brookies, like, you know, big fish, just mean, ugly old big males. And I'm a salmon junkie, man. Like salmon
salmon
runs.
junkie.
Yeah, I got bit by the salmon bug when I was 8 years old, and ever since then I've been infected real bad. Like, it's not something that I want to do; it's something that I have to do every year. It's just like, okay, well, I'm just waiting for the season to start. I think we're 91 days now to the recording of this video. We got 91 days to the season opener, June 1st. So
Who's counting though, huh?
my phone, I got a counter on my
Yeah.
phone. It's right on the front screen.
Well, good
It
for you.
comes up. It comes up in the morning before my emails do.
Yeah, cool. Just 81 more days. That's hilarious. That's great, man.
Yeah.
We just got some exciting news as far as our local salmon fisheries. The over in Idaho, a bill was just introduced. You know, it has a lot of more loops to jump through here, but there's some legislation that's proposing removing the lower 4 dams on the Snake River in Idaho that have been proved to be, you know, some of the biggest barriers for the Chinook salmon that are traveling from the Pacific up the Snake River to their spawning grounds in the Rocky Mountains in Idaho. So
Yep.
again, a lot of hoops to still jump through, but it's one step and one of the biggest steps that we've gotten to kind of restoring some of those traditional salmon fisheries that are so important to our economy and, you know, the native tribes here. And man, it's good news for sure. We'll see. Maybe 2030 they'll start taking down the dams, but again,
Well, there you
conservation's
go.
long ball.
Get a hold of Orion here. He'll direct you to where you got to go to help fight that battle, get them dams removed off the bottom of the Snake River, and your fishing will be better for sure.
That's it. That's it.
So if anybody wants to help with your guys' organization or get involved or volunteer or anything, how can they get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, thanks, David. Absolutely. You know, most of our work is done through contributions from the user group. So every little bit helps, really. If you're feeling like you have any money that's burning a hole in your pocket and you would like to see it go towards the preservation of the resource and promoting public access and educating the youth in our community, you can head to snakeriverfund.org, and there's a couple different options to donate through that. And honestly, other than financially, one of the best things you can do is just be an active steward of your river wherever you might be. Take a second to clean up that fishing line that's on the bank or the beer can that you see that might not even be yours. You know, just pick it up and keep the places that you love special and as pristine as possible for generations to come. That's kind of some of the most important stuff I think we can all do.
And what about those other projects you guys are on there, the Scenic Rivers? If anybody wants to get involved with that.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that you can do,
or find out more about it.
Yeah, to find out more about it, you know, it's good to just be in touch with what's going on locally, and here, our national forest, Bridger Teton National Forest, actually has a resource where if you feel like you've experienced anything outstanding on a waterway within their jurisdiction, you can go online and submit your observations and why you think certain stretches of river should be designated wild and scenic or be protected in perpetuity. Really, public voice is like one of the most important ways to reach out to these legislative branches of government and work to protect them. Everybody's voice matters.
And this is always ongoing. People can always make these suggestions.
Absolutely. Right now, time is kind of the essence because the forest here, the Bridger Teton National Forest, is preparing for their forest plan revision. It was scheduled to be, I think, like 2018, and it keeps getting pushed back. But they are, again, they're obligated to assess every name stream. So if you feel like, if you're local and you're listening to this, reach out to us and we can help have your voice heard, or be in tune with the Bridger Teton National Forest or your local national forest planning revisions, and reach out to them and tell them that you have some good insight and you want to work to protect the rivers that flow through the mountains.
Perfect.
Yeah, man.
Well, thanks for coming on, Orion. I really appreciate you telling us all about your organization, and hopefully people will get involved a little more with their local rivers, and especially with the people in your area. They get involved with however they can with Snake River Fund, and get the kids out there, some of these workshops that you're doing, and share the wealth, brother.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing as well. It's a big help for us to have our voice heard. I wish you all the best this upcoming summer. And thanks for letting me talk at you for a little bit here.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, folks. And until next time, keep it clean and practice safe catch and release.